Original post, 29th of April, 2024. Last Tuesday evening 32 female, came home from being out of town for 2 weeks for work. My boyfriend Nate, 35 male, was supposed to pick me up from the airport, but once I got in, I wasn't able to get a hold of him and he never showed up. I was a little annoyed but not too worried because I figured he had fallen asleep. When I talked to him earlier that morning, he said he didn't sleep very well the night before and was going to lay down before he had to come to get me, so I called my sister for a ride home. When I got home, Nate was nowhere to be found. I checked the garage, and his car was gone, so I sent him a text asking where he was and headed upstairs to unpack. When I opened the closet to put my things away, I saw that almost all of his clothes were gone. At this point I'm confused, so I start calling him. It just keeps ringing and then going to voicemail. I check his office, and everything is still there. Everything in the house is still there and in place except his clothes and his car. I'm really starting to freak out at this point, so I call my sister and she comes over and we both try calling and messaging him and still get no answer. His computer and his laptop are both still in his office. I logged onto his computer and my sister his laptop. I know all his passwords, but we didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so I started searching his desk and found his iPad in the top drawer. I logged into it and checked everything I could think of and found nothing out of the ordinary. My sister suggested checking the Find My iPhone app on his iPad to see if we find out where his phone was. We logged into the app and see that his phone was pinging in the next state over. I started calling him again but still got no answers to my calls or text. I really start to lose it here. My mind starts going all over the place trying to figure out what could be going on. I called the police because I think someone has to have done something to him. The police came out, but they said there wasn't much they could do because he hasn't been gone long and his clothes missing was a sign that he left on his own violation. Over the last few days, I've done everything I can to contact him. He doesn't have any family except for a brother that he cut ties with before I met him. I found him online and sent him a message, but he said he hasn't seen or heard from Nate in years. I keep checking his phone's location and since Saturday morning it has been pinging in the same location in the PNW. I took off work for the rest of the week and my sister and I are flying up there to go to the location his phone is pinging. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? How do I even confront him? What if he is with another woman? What if he isn't there or worse? I am so lost and hurt right now. My mind is all over the place. I can't think straight. I'm so lost right now. TLDR. My boyfriend of 6 years disappeared while I was out of town. Haven't been able to contact him but his phone is pinging in the PNW and I am going to confront him tomorrow. Edit. Yes, I have called or messaged all of his friends, but none of them have seen or heard from him. I do have access to his bank account as we have a joint account but not his business account. He last used his debt card Friday night in a town west of Seattle, Washington. He owns his own business but has taken a step back over the last year so he doesn't communicate with them regularly. They haven't heard from him since last month. I am 5 months pregnant, and we have known for 3 months. He did become a bit reserved and withdrawn since we found out, but it's not uncommon for him to do that every so often, especially around this time of year. I don't truly believe that he would abandon me and his child. That's just not the type of man he is, but I don't know what to think anymore. Small update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone for suggesting the welfare check. We called the department where his phone is pinging, and they have sent someone over to see if they can make contact with him. It's been over an hour, and we are still waiting to hear back. I am hopeful but still have an overbearing sense of dread. All I want to know right now is that he is okay, and I can figure out everything else later. I just need to know he is okay. Update. The police were able to do a welfare check, and although they were unable to make direct contact with him, they spoke to the couple who live at the house. They said they were old family friends and that he was there on Friday and Saturday but that he went to the Olympics Sunday morning to go hiking for a couple of days. The officers informed them of what was going on and they told him they believed he was okay and that they would contact me tonight to try and help explain the situation. What does that even mean? I am even more confused. Our flight to Seattle is at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow, and at this point, we are still going. I hope these people do call, but it's been a while now and I haven't heard anything. Update 2. I think this will be my final update. I have to get ready and get my stuff packed for the flight in the morning. I have just spent the last hour speaking to the couple whose house he was at and they, against his wishes, told me what is going on. They have known Nate since he was 12 years old. He started dating their daughter Ashley when they were in 6th grade and they continued dating all through middle school and high school. Ashley got pregnant toward the end of their senior year, and they got engaged. I don't know how to even write this next part. When their son was 1.5 years old, they were involved in an accident with a drunk driver. Nate was ejected from the car and Ashley and his son passed away in the accident. She said that he blames himself for it because according to him they were never supposed to be out that night and it was his fault they were. She said he withdrew from them and everyone else and that up until last Friday that hadn't heard from him since he left. She has offered to come get my sister and I from the airport in the morning and she can try to answer any questions I have while we wait for him to return. She said they know where he is. He is at the spot they spread their ashes. She said he told her that he needed to be with his son one more time before he let him go. I'm honestly in a total state of shock right now. I don't know what to think but I know he is in pain, and I need to get to him and I can figure everything else after. Thank you to all the kind people who reached out and offered your suggestions. I honestly don't think I would have this information right now if it wasn't for you all, so again thank you. Update 1, May 9, 2024. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who reached out and offered your advice and help. On the other hand, the people who were just mean or all the men who came into my messages, you should be ashamed of yourselves. We did fly out to Seattle last Tuesday morning. Kathy, the wife of the couple, picked us up from the airport and took us back to their place. On the way there she said her husband was on his way to go find Nate so he could bring him back but it would likely be a few hours before they would arrive back. As we waited, Kathy did her best to answer some of the questions that I had. I knew Nate lost his mom at a young age to breast cancer but she said it had a deeply profound effect on him and he became a very troubled child. She said that when he and Ashley met that Nate was in a group home because he was in a lot of trouble for fighting and drug use. He was 12. I was kind of taken aback by this because I've never known him to do anything besides smoke marijuana from time to time. He doesn't even drink. She said that when they met Ashley immediately took on a role of protector of him. She could feel his pain and she wanted to rescue him from it. When they finally got to know him they decided that they would take Nate and if he wanted that once he was out of the group home. When he was 16 he finally got out of the group home but was still on probation so he had to live with his dad who was an alcoholic and abusive, but he would spend most evenings and weekends at their house. He still got in trouble because he kept failing his UA for marijuana but he was no longer getting into fights. He credited Ashley for that and felt like she and her family were the only people besides his mom to ever show him any compassion or love. She asked if I would like to see pictures of them and when she showed me the picture of Nate holding his son for the first time I broke down. Because I have never seen him in the 6 years we have been together with a smile like that. He was so happy. He smiles now from time to time and he is always laughing but I've never seen that smile, that gleam. It just broke me to know that he had been living in that much pain for 15 years and hid it from everyone. We looked through more pictures and she told more stories. And spoke of how sad she was when he left. We talked for hours and then finally her husband came through the door but Nate was not with him. George, Kathy's husband, said that he had found Nate where he was supposed to be and explained that my sister and I were at their house waiting for him. He said when he told him this that Nate laughed and said of course, and that he would head back, he just needed a few more minutes alone. So, we waited for what felt like forever, and finally a little over 2 hours after George arrived back, Nate walked in the front door. He looked at me and the first words out of his mouth were, "I should have known my note wouldn't be good enough and that you would come find me. I love you and I am very sorry." I said, "What note?" And he said, "The one I put in your front seat, he put in my car." I never even thought to check there for anything. I am going to leave out a lot of this next part because it's very personal, but I asked him why he would just leave me at the airport and why he wouldn't just call or text me that he was leaving. He said that while I was gone, he wanted to put some of the things that we had gotten for the baby in the nursery and start painting it before I got back and that everything was fine until he started putting together the dresser and the changing station. While he was doing that he was flooded with memories of his son and Ashley and that it actually knocked him off his feet and he broke down. He said every time he closed his eyes he saw them, that's why he couldn't sleep. He said he asked to take mushrooms to try and help get him out of it, but all that did was make things worse and he realized that he needed to not forget them and not hide them and that he needed to go make peace with them and ask them to forgive him for abandoning their memory. He knew that when I got home that I would obviously know something wasn't right with him and he also didn't know how to tell me he had been hiding a huge part of his past. Anyway, he expressed how sorry he was and that he understood if all of this was too much and if I didn't want to be with him anymore that he would completely understand. I let him know that as long as he agreed to never hide something from me or disappear again and would agree to go to therapy and couples therapy that I wouldn't be going anywhere. He promised he would do whatever I asked of him. I asked him to fly back with me and my sister called her husband to fly in and they would drive his car back. So we are back home now. He hasn't started therapy yet but has an appointment next week. Our baby is doing okay and so am I just need him to be okay and everything will be good again. Anyway, thank you again to all the kind hearts who reached out. You gave me a lot of positive vibes in a dark time and I really can't thank you enough for that. Story 2, am I the asshole for overreacting to learning about the true fate of my little sister's remains? Original post, April 18, 2024. My mother and father divorced when I was young. They had an oops baby together after my mom remarried, which rocked that marriage apart. That oops baby was my little sister. She died abruptly in an accident 4 years ago at only 14. You know how people say the firsts after a death are the hardest? They don't account for when there are no firsts to be had. When they should have been getting ready for prom but never will, it's a completely different pain. My mom and I were talking about it, we were both drinking, and she slipped that my bit of ashes I carry that I thought were my sister's were just regular ashes. Burnt wood. She already poured out my sister's ashes without me or my brother in the plot she bought with my stepdad. She couldn't fathom my rage because to her, the sentiment and emotions are the important aspects, not that it's physically my sister. My anger is prompted by the lies and the fact those sentiments and emotions are attached to something not my little sister, and I had no idea she cast her ashes on a plot she wouldn't have cared about. I screamed at her to get out of my house, locking the door behind her and calling up my stepdad to pick her up. I threw the necklace out the window to the front lawn, then regretted it and tore it out of her hands when she picked it up. As she would say it, I made a scene and embarrassed her. I kept screaming and calling her a liar whenever she tried to explain herself or get back inside. I was threatening to call the cops on her when my stepdad finally showed up and took her away. He called me the next day and left a message saying that he wanted to talk about what happened, and how he understands why I'm angry and hurt. He just wanted to talk, but I needed to talk to my mother too about this because she's a grieving mother, and my sister's death was a huge blow to the entire family and everyone is trying to regain our bearings still, so some kindness is needed. All I can think of right now is my mom's heartbroken face as I ripped my necklace out of her hands, or the way she turned away from me crying as my stepdad ushered her into the car. I called her names, I let my pain and rage take over me. But I can't get over the lies. 4 years of thinking my necklace had my sister, of thinking she was right by my heart, and it all came undone because my mom had too much to drink. How long would she have let me think this? How long would the lie continue? Relevant comments. Comment 1. Yay, your mother is grieving. But you, her very living child, are too. Having your mother lie to you about something important is going to get an emotional reaction. What you do is up to you. But I wouldn't let her frame this as embarrassing her or that she's a victim in any way. She lied about it, she got drunk, and tattled on herself. These are the consequences of her own actions. It was an absolute mistake on her part that she even said it. We were talking about prom season and how hard it can be to be reminded of things that my sister would have loved. Then she started to say, I start crying before I even reach the cemetery sometimes, and she named it by name. I started flipping then and was like, what cemetery? Why that cemetery? In a sort of, why are we talking about cemeteries when we're talking about her way? I kept pushing her for an explanation and that's when the whole thing came out. Update 1, April 26, 2024. I gave my mother an ultimatum of either telling my brother and father, or I will. She refused to because, you reacted so horribly. And she told me not to tell because, you're doing this to hurt me and you're just going to hurt them. So I told them. I sat my dad and brother down and explained that the necklaces didn't have the right ashes in them. I've never seen my dad break like that, and I've never heard my brother scream at me like that. He was angry that I knew before him and didn't immediately tell because, this is stuff you tell me. You needed to tell me, we tell each other everything. But he started crying and apologizing to me, admitting he's just so mad about what mom did and he can't handle it. So, I guess that's clearly something else me and my brother share, we get overwhelmed initially before cooler heads prevail. My dad looked gutted, but he was clearly trying to piece himself back together. He said a lot of the same other people had said to me on my other post, we can get some of the dirt from the plot where she was scattered. The necklace has the meaning we attribute to it and she's still with us even if her body hasn't been physically with us. I feel bad because some of what my mom said, i.e., the bit about the necklace being important even without her ashes in it, but I was able to accept that much easier from him. Maybe because he didn't lie to me for 4 years and drop a bomb on me out of nowhere because I pulled apart a lie. He held my brother and I as we cried, and he apologized for the pain, and he said it wasn't fair that I had to be the adult when my mother should have told all of us a lot sooner. Dad's going to try to talk to my stepfather to find the plot because my mom has been refusing to talk to us anymore, not answering messages or picking up the phone. Her social media has even gone dark. He's going to find out where the plot is and go to the site. I don't know if I could if it were up to me. It just feels like the final bit of proof that this fucked up nightmare is real, and my sister is mixed with dirt and rocks and grass of an unmaintained and unvisited plot. My mom and I always had some issues, but that's normal. This is worse than anything. And we had a rough patch when I came out that we didn't even talk, but we mended fences after. I can't see ever forgiving her, not with how she dropped this on me, blamed me for my reaction, and left me to do what she should have done. To top it off, she won't even show the decency to explain why or even talk to me. When we were discussing cremation, it was agreed we would all get a necklace with the ashes. My mind keeps going over things that just didn't add up fully, times she almost slipped, or things that make complete sense now. She almost left behind her necklace on a trip and didn't freak out like I would have, because she knew where my sister was the whole time. She volunteered to be the one to separate the ashes and gave Dad the rest. I assume those ashes are the same as ours, fake. God, this whole thing just makes me want to curl up in a hole and never see the light of day again. I've been on and off crying all week without being able to stop, or just so angry I could scream. In the middle of my damn workday and suddenly I'm rushing to the bathroom to hide the fact I'm breaking all over again because I can't stop my thoughts. I quit smoking after my sister died, but I picked it right back up again. My dad has been calling me every day to check in on me and remind me of how much he loves me and how much my brother loves me. I think he's afraid. My brother has come over each day since the talk with his girlfriend to make sure I eat something. I don't know how to end this post. I feel lost and like I don't know anything anymore. I feel like a burden because my dad and brother are both dealing with the revelation too, but they're clearly thinking of me and checking in on me. I'm going to look into grief counseling, but the therapist I saw after my sister died isn't practicing anymore and my insurance isn't accepted by a lot of therapists. I try to remind myself that my little sister wouldn't have minded so much becoming woven into a tapestry of grass and flowers, and that I can visit her once we know where she was cast and make sure her side is always beautiful. Thank you to everyone who helped me and shared their own perspectives and stories. I really appreciate it. Update 2, May 10, 2024. This has probably been the worst month of my life in years. I'm going to start with the minor stuff that's been happening or whatever because my head just feels like a brick. I got a promotion I'd been aiming for before everything. My boss did tell me I had already got it before this all happened, and it was held off on announcing so I could have time to process it before I had to adjust to the new job requirements. I couldn't even feel proud. I know a month ago I would have, but I feel numb. I'm working a lot more hours now than normal, usually about 6 a.m. to 7 p.m, give or take. Paycheck looks nice, I guess. My dad keeps telling me I need to work less, so does my brother, but my job is one that engages my mind enough that I'm nearly brain dead by the time I'm home, which is nice. I started drinking more than usual. After blacking out one night I let my dad take it all and I haven't bought more. I don't think I've ever gotten blackout before, so it's terrifying to hear about the night but have barely any recollection of it. About my sister, my mother finally responded to my brother, and according to him she was a wreck. All tears, all apologies, all, you have to understand. There must be something wrong with me because I look at her and I want to hurt her. I want to break her heart, I want to make a spectacle of her disgusting behavior, I want to ruin her life. I think part of me recognizes that's why I'm not so overly cautious about details, but at the same time, I can't do it. The rational part of my mind kicks in and I realize that it wouldn't do anything but make it worse. I just feel guilty and sick after the brief moment of satisfaction. But then I think to myself, so how and why could you do that to us? For years? Her and my brother had a much better relationship than her and I ever did. She still did that to him. Like yeah, Dad and her never got better after the divorce, and after the affair, they struggled with even co-parenting for a multitude of reasons. She and I have had our issues. But the bond between her and my brother has always been strong, or at least used to be, and she did it to him of all people. She tried telling my brother that she did it impulsively, in a fit of pique, but when he pressured her about why she was the one to volunteer to handle filling the necklaces, she said that it was because she was okay with it at first, but then when she saw the ashes, she didn't want to destroy her further. Her word there. Destroyed? Like the relationship between her living children? Like our trust in her? Like the memorial we agreed upon for my sister? I don't know how to feel. If I even trust her story. But her wording makes me feel like it was planned. Yet again it becomes an accidental revelation, where she tried to uphold a lie but got caught, and that's how the truth came to light. I managed to talk to the funeral director. My sister's fingerprints are part of their records. I'm going to get her touch tattooed, but I found a means of getting that on a necklace so my brother and dad can have that if they don't want a tattoo. Still struggling to get in contact with the owners of the cemetery. A lot of unanswered emails and voicemails. I've also been looking for therapists and counselors in my area, or ones doing telehealth. I have an appointment upcoming but I'm nervous. My stepfather has stepped back. He set a boundary that he won't talk to us until we agree to discuss this without blaming anyone, And anytime the conversation starts going toward asking about motive or who knew what and when, he says the conversation needs to end. He's even hung up on us before and threatened the cops on me, even implying it'd be deserved after I did the same to my mother. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Suggest you tell stepdad, okay fine. But my mother better not try to contact me in any way for anything else until the Ashes issue is fully resolved, so tell her she is now down 2 kids, maybe 3. Comment 2. Regarding contacting the cemetery. Leave a voicemail saying you want to purchase a plot. If anyone listens to the voicemail, they'll usually call back ASAP for a sale. When they call back, tell them you want to purchase a plot near your parents and give your mom and stepdad's names, and ask what their plot numbers are. Once you have the plot numbers, hang up and block their number so they can't keep calling trying to sell you things you definitely do not want. But that might get the info faster. This is how I found the location of my infant cousin. Also, some cemeteries have plot numbers and location maps online now. Worth checking. How does someone think this is a good idea? Like, did she not think anyone would care? If she lost the plot that OP's sister is buried on, she would be very upset. But since she gets to be buried with her daughter, I guess the feelings of her living kids don't matter. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.